Hi, I'm Barbara Lucas, and welcome to the Green Room, where we explore the environmental topics that green up our world. Today's topic is the carbon footprint of water. Our guests are from the Huron River Watershed Council, Pam Labadie, Outreach and Marketing Director, and Rebecca Esselman, Watershed Planner. Pam and Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So I've been seeing a lot of interesting things in the Huron River report. You have a lot of different publications and on your website about this carbon footprint of water. And I'd like to have you start, Rebecca, by telling us what that is.
Sure. The carbon footprint of water speaks to the fact that it takes electricity to get water to our homes, to pump, heat, and treat water that we drink and use for other household purposes. And electricity production, of course, emits carbon. Therefore, along with electricity embedded in our water, we also have carbon embedded in our water. And water use has a carbon footprint that contributes to global climate change.
It's fascinating. It's a whole new topic for me. So about how much of our total electrical energy use in the U.S. is through our water use?
Sure. About 13% of the total energy use of our nation goes to water production, water use. 5% of the total carbon emissions of our nation are due to water use as well.
Wow. It's really low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. And 5% sometimes doesn't sound like a lot to people, but to relativize that number, that's equivalent to 53 million cars on the road for a year.
Wow.
It's a lot of
That's
carbon.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. And conservation is our, what do they say, our cheapest and cleanest form of energy, and it doesn't have any emissions. And the technology is right there for us. And speaking of the technology, we've got a lot of great things to talk about. Pam Labadie, you are the Marketing and Outreach Director, and you've done an amazing job with this H2O Hero campaign.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm really excited about, and to kick off, we're going to show a video that you have put together, a public service announcement that's 60 seconds with the Detroit Public
Television.
That's
yeah.
right, okay.
Yeah.
And we're going to show that now.
In a world where two critical resources are deeply connected, pumping, treating, and heating the nation's water takes 13% of our electric power. Families spend $100 on water and water-related energy every month. And electric utilities use 200 billion gallons of fresh water every day. A hero will rise.
Dad, is that my mask?
Yes. The water wasn't off all the way, so make sure that doesn't happen again. Turning off the tap is just the beginning. Look for the WaterSense label on fixtures that meet EPA criteria for efficiency and performance. Be an H2O hero. More information is available at h2oheroes.org.
I really love that movie because it speaks to the empowerment issue. You know, so many people feel kind of depressed when they see problems and they feel they can't do anything about them, but with this movie you feel like, wow, there's really things you can do.
Yeah, we were hoping to show that the average person, by doing sort of everyday things, can be an H2O hero. So I'm glad that message came across.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. So let's get started talking about different things people can do. And one thing that really surprised me, the EPA said that something like 30% of the water we use is actually used outdoors, and that doesn't even include agricultural systems. So let's start outside. For instance, with lawns. What can we do to use less water in our lawns?
That's right. Well, there are, in my estimation, 3 big areas where we can improve our efficiency outdoors. And the first place is if you're a lawn watering type of person, if you have automatic sprinklers. The EPA's WaterSense program has developed WaterSense certified smart irrigation technology. And that's a lot of words for saying they're sprinkler controllers that sort of measure weather and soil moisture So gone are the days when your sprinklers are set to water every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. no matter what. The smart irrigation technology is designed to actually water to the conditions that are happening in your lawn.
That's great. Are there shutoffs if it's raining? It drives me nuts to see sprinklers growing when it's raining.
Yeah, so the smart irrigation technology would be measuring the moisture in the soil. So rain, I'm sure, would trigger a shutoff. You know, I don't know a lot of the specifics about smart irrigation technology, but that's one of the great things about WaterSense is there's an amazing website where homeowners can go and get really straightforward, good information on some of these techniques that are out there.
And another pet peeve of mine is when you're going down the road or the sidewalk and you see the sprinkler pointed towards the pavement instead of the lawn. That just drives me nuts.
Yep, and that's an easy thing for a homeowner to adjust, is just making sure that you're actually directing the water where it needs to go. Another tip would be to irrigate according to special zones in your lawn. So if you have an area of your landscape, say garden, that has flowers and shrubs that need more water than maybe your lawn, smart irrigation technology will be handling that watering separate from, say, your turf grass.
Let's talk low tech. How about just like mulching, bringing your leaves under the bed of the tree and shrubs to keep the moisture and stuff like that?
There are tons of low tech ways to save water. Mulching around plants is a way to prevent that water from evaporating on hot sunny days. Using a rain barrel, you know, that's sort of an old-fashioned way to collect water that's coming off of your rooftop and reuse that water to water plants in your garden. And even beyond that, some real efficient ways to change your landscape to make it more water efficient are to use more native plants, Barbara. If you're using deep-rooted native plants that are accustomed to and that can handle drought conditions and that need less water in the first place, as opposed to turf grass, which needs, you know, a good amount of water to stay nice and green and lush like everybody wants. That's a way to just build that efficiency right into your landscape.
I was reading that if you use a lot of fertilizer, it could cause you to need more water, and also that if you mow very low, your grass needs more water.
Yeah, I think the fertilizer issue would be that if you're fertilizing your lawn, it's going to be growing and trying to green up a lot more quickly. The best height to keep your lawn at is 3 inches or longer, and that promotes sort of a longer root growth and helps keep your grass needing a little bit less water because those blades can kind of act as shade for the roots and the soil that are there.
And also even with a cheap sprinkler, sometimes you can adjust the size of the droplets, and apparently the EPA says we lose like 50% of our sprinkler water because of rain or evaporation, and if we have bigger droplets, it tends to go down. Or drip irrigation, that doesn't even go into the air at all.
And there's also a time of day factor.
Oh, yeah?
If you're watering in the heat of the day when the sun's beating down and evaporating that water, you're losing more to evaporation than you would if you watered in the morning or the evening. So the timing of your water is another way to save.
Great. Those are all good tips. Thank you. So how about moving indoors? What would be the first thing you would tell somebody to do inside to make sure they're not wasting water?
Yeah, well, when you think about the relationship between water and energy and carbon, the most significant energy using water is hot water. That requires direct application of energy, electricity and natural gas to heat water. So the average homeowner can do more to save on their water bill and their energy bill if they try to address hot water use first.
Okay.
So the big area for that is going to be using a water efficient shower head. I think showers, clothes washing machines, and faucets are the three biggest users of hot water in a home. So, in fact, you picked this up. This is a water efficient shower head. It's been certified for water efficiency and performance by, again, WaterSense.
Okay.
They have a wonderful program where they, WaterSense labels fixtures that have met their standards and that have that are good performing fixtures. And so a person can go right into their local hardware store and look for the WaterSense labeled fixture and know that they're getting a really efficient fixture.
And they're supposed to be, the performance is supposed to be as good as a regular one. So I guess people used to shy away from these things because they felt that there wouldn't be enough pressure or whatever, but somehow they aerate, is that how you say it? The flow so it feels more forceful.
It's got all kinds of technical things to do with droplet size and pressure and the rate. But you're right. I mean, gone are the low flow fixtures that we're all afraid to use, and now I think they perform just as good as inefficient fixtures.
And what's this thing? Is the, that's just to change the, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking this might be one of those shut-off valves that I've heard are nice when you're, because people tend to leave the water flowing the entire shower when really they should be turning it off to soap up and then turning it back on to rinse off. And
I understand that's a military style shower.
Oh, okay.
Gals and guys in the military are accustomed to turning off the water while they're soaping and then turning it back on to rinse off. So, yeah, so you will see a lot of shower heads out there that have that feature, and it's basically kind of a little dial right here where you can turn it on and off.
Well, we have a lot more tips to go through and not a lot of time, so let's talk about leaks, because I've heard those are really important. So tell us what this is.
Leaks can account for, the average home that has a leak can account for 10,000 gallons of water a year.
Wow,
just
10,000 gallons.
Yeah, and this actually is just a fancy holder for a couple of little dye tablets where you can check your toilet to see if it's leaking. They're just little blue dye tablets, and you pop one in the tank, and if the water turns blue in your bowl, you know that the mechanism inside your toilet could be leaking, and it's worth checking out. So, you know, it's really about just checking things like your toilet, your faucets, other places where you have water in your home, maybe your hot water heater. And then also a sign that there may be a leak in your home is if you're paying attention to your water bill and you notice that it's significantly or unusually high, that's a sign that you could have a leak.
Because Pam, isn't it the case that that's the largest source of water wasting in the home is leaks?
It is, yes.
And what's challenging about it is you don't see it.
Yeah.
You know if you're leaving the tap running, you know if you're taking a long shower, and you might be conscientious of those things. But in large parts, you could be losing a very large amount of water to leaks and not know it. So doing these tests can be really helpful for water savings.
And if you rent, to tell your landlord or to ask your landlord, to fix any leaks, because it's to their advantage to have you let them know.
Yep, absolutely.
How about, I've been seeing a lot of differences in the literature about whether or not you should take a bath or a shower. And I came to the conclusion that it must be because everybody's baths are different sizes and they take different lengths of showers. And you've got something here about a timer for a shower.
I do, yep. So if you take a shower and you're looking to be very efficient, you've got your water efficient shower head. But then another way to increase your efficiency is just by changing your habit. And this is just a little 5-minute shower timer so that you can start paying attention to how long you spend in the shower. It's kind of a fun way to see what your water use might be. So I have this one. They come in all shapes and sizes. I have another one that's LED, so this one actually lights up.
That'd be fun.
But it's a really good way to increase your awareness. And you know, not everybody is wanting to take a 5-minute shower every time, but if you're taking a 5-minute shower more often than not, you're really going to impact your savings.
How about with dishwashers and clothes washers and the size of your load?
Okay, that's a good point too. I think, you know, the recommendation is that to always wash a full load for both dishwashers and clothes washers, so you're maximizing the amount of water that's being used.
And not having to do it so often, supposedly.
That's right, yep.
Yeah, I was hearing that blue jean manufacturers are actually putting on the blue jeans, don't wash these after every use. There's no reason, you know, because it's just, we've gotten into this cleanliness thing that's kind of a little, maybe a bit overboard in terms of.
Yeah, there are statistics about how many gallons of water it takes to produce your blue jeans, or in the lifespan of your blue jeans, and a huge portion of that number comes from the washing of those jeans once they're in your household.
Yeah, actually it's 919 gallons per pair of blue jeans, which is amazing.
Yeah. You know, so you figure, you know, the growing of the cotton and the shipping of the materials and the creation of the manufacture of the blue jeans, but then once it gets to your home, if you're washing it every time you wear those jeans,
well,
that adds up.
And you know, on the clothes washing side, I know that some older washing machines can use up to 41 gallons per cycle to wash a load of clothes. There are, you know, oodles of new high efficiency machines that can really cut that per cycle wash in half. So you know, that's another way that folks can save water is if they're looking to upgrade their machine. Check out the high efficiency machines, and they can get information about a washing machine's water efficiency right on Energy Star.
Oh, okay.
So Energy Star rates for both energy efficiency, but there's a water factor rating that they give all of the appliances as well.
Okay.
So homeowners would look for a low water factor rating to see that it's really water efficient.
I have a high efficiency one, and I buy detergent that's for cold water and try to do everything in cold water. So I'm using less water and I'm not using hot water.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Great way to go. Yeah.
And how about a rule of thumb in terms of the age of, say, toilets and hot water heaters? About how old are they that you should probably change them out?
1994 is the year that comes to mind.
Okay.
There was a federal law, the Energy Policy Act, that required more efficient fixtures after 1994 to be made and sold in the marketplace. And so, you know, having that year in mind is a way to sort of gauge where you're at with the age of your fixtures. But even since 1994, we've made a lot of improvements. WaterSense has only been around and certifying fixtures since 2010. And those fixtures are 20% more efficient, guaranteed, than what the 1994 law required. So,
wow. And even if somebody can't afford a new appliance, going back to some of the old ways that we used to do things, like I was watching someone cook with a dry sink. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but where you don't have running water and you just fill up a bowl. And anyway, the point being that there's amazing things you can do without a lot of water. And for instance, when I go to get my dishes clean, I first soak them in a bucket of water in my sink for like 20 minutes or so before I put them in the dishwasher, and that way I don't have to rinse each one. so concepts that are low tech.
Yeah, just
And
thinking
free.
of those little things.
Yep.
You know, when you're getting ready to use water. You know, how can I do this without having that tap running? That's the way to go.
And you told me, one of you told me earlier that somebody you know that needs to, when she has to run the hot water, when she needs to run the water to get it hot, she runs the garbage disposal while she's waiting.
Yep.
So that seems like a good use.
Other people will capture it for the cold water for watering the plants or some other cold water purpose. You know,
Great.
get the noodles, the pasta, you know, the water ready for the pasta on the stove while you're waiting for that water to get hot. On the technology side, another thing that you can do is invest in an on-demand water heater.
Okay.
And that reduces your energy use associated with water heating pretty considerably. If you're not familiar with the technology, it heats water when you call for it at the tap rather than maintaining a large tank of hot water constantly that's ready for, you know, to head
Makes
to
sense.
the faucet when you call for it.
Well, there's more tips that I'd love to go through, but we don't really have enough time to get through all of them. So we're going to use the last 5 minutes to talk with Rebecca back to the relationship between carbon and water, which I think is fascinating, how the more water we use, the more energy we use, the more greenhouse gases that are produced, and then the more extreme weather that we end up with. So I'd like to ask you about the relationship between extreme weather and what we're finding in our watershed in terms of, you know, drought, et cetera, flooding.
Sure. Yeah, in this area, we are seeing a change in weather patterns. We're seeing an overall increase in temperature. That doesn't mean every day it's warmer than it was the day before or the winter before, but the trend is heading toward warmer temperatures and also toward more precipitation, tending to fall in more extreme or larger storms, larger quantities in a given time. So, you know, that has all sorts of implications for human health, personal safety, the way we run our cities and towns, and things along those lines. And so doing our part to reduce the amount of emissions associated with the way we live can help kind of mitigate the impacts of climate change that we're experiencing right here. And a lot of people focus on things like riding their bike or taking mass transit, all of those very direct carbon emitters, which is very important. But an overlooked behavior change that we can take is this water conservation, water efficiency.
And then you get into things with our natural areas, such as wetlands. Let's talk about how our natural areas can, preservation of our natural areas, the riparian buffers, et cetera, can help deal with the extreme weather.
Sure. Our natural areas serve as sponges on the landscape. If you think about, if you pour a glass of water on soil, it sucks it up. If you pour it on pavement, it sits there. So the more we can maintain natural areas or build our environment in ways that allow water to make it to natural areas. You know, in highly urban environments, we hear more and more about rain gardens as a place for water to make it to the soil rather than run off into our rivers.
Pervious pavers.
Yeah, pervious pavers. There's a lot of practices that fall under this title of green infrastructure that range anywhere from preserving wetlands and forests and riparian buffers to installing rain gardens in yards or designing detention ponds in ways that are more green and use the properties of nature to help protect us against the impacts of more severe storms.
Well, the Huron River Watershed Council is doing amazing things in those areas by maintaining buffers along the rivers and helping to preserve wetlands and raising awareness. I mean, your publications are fantastic. What's the website for your council?
HRWC.org is the council website. And then we've made a little microsite for the H2O Heroes Saving Water Saves Energy information, and that's h2oheroes.org. They're both linked, so you'll be able to find them both in both locations, but pick the one that you remember the most.
Well, they're really excellent. Are there any other websites? I think we already talked about the epa.gov/WaterSense. And then what about Home Water Works?
There's a website out there called Home Water Works, and we link to it right on h2oheroes.org that offers an online calculator. So a homeowner can go right to that calculator and start plugging in some of their own information about the age of the fixtures in their house, how many people live there, whether they take baths or showers, and get information on their energy use, their water use, the carbon footprint of their water use, and tips on how to improve it.
Fun activity with children or not. I mean, it's very educational stuff, and I really appreciate you putting so much work and excellent work into this topic. It's very helpful to our community. Thank you so much for being here today. We're out of time, but I really appreciate your time today.
Sure. Thanks for helping us get the word out.
Yeah. So for an archive of today's show, go to ewachna.org/greenroom. Thanks for joining us here in the Green Room.